No woman could ever replace Anna.
It's true. Huh?
Who's that?
Surprise, motherfucker!
Welcome everyone to Talk AEW, Goomba Stomp's AEW fan podcast. My name is Ricky D, and once again, I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Mr. Aaron Santos.
What's up?
And Mariko is once again off. She is still moving. She will be back for the next episode, but we invited Chris Wright to join us once again.
Thank you for having me, boss. How are you today?
I'm not bad, but I'm a little let down because we watched AEW Revolution last night and we decided to record an extra bonus episode just to discuss the pay-per-view. If you're a first-time listener, we don't break down an entire episode of Dynamite, or in this case, an entire episode of a pay-per-view, move by move, match by match. It's just not what we do. In our main event, we will talk about the match between Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega. Before that, we're going to talk about cinematic matches in general and focus a lot on, of course, the match between Sting, Darby Allin, and Team Taz. But what we like to do at the start of every single episode is we like to do what I like to call Ricky's Rapid Fire Questions. So, are you guys ready?
Yep.
Let's do this.
Okay. Question number one. Is it just me, or is there like way too many kickouts and like false finishes in every match in a pay-per-view nowadays, especially when it comes to AEW?
I think that's just sort of the style that they work. I don't really necessarily have a problem with it.
I don't have a problem with it either. I feel like they tend to do it more on the pay-per-view events, mostly just because of like, dramatic effect, the near counts and stuff. But I don't see it too much on AEW. So, I mean, in regular TV form anyway.
Okay, so here's the first part of the podcast where I'm going to go off because I'm just like fed up. I'm sorry. I completely disagree with you guys. So I talked about this in the last episode. Shaq comes in. It's his first wrestling match ever. He does this incredible power bomb on Cody Rhodes, and Cody right away pokes him in the eye, gets up, and body slams Shaquille O'Neal. He body slams Shaq. And I made a comparison of Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant way back in the day and how they had this incredible build-up, and it was a great storytelling in the ring, outside the ring, in the promos, leading to the match, during the match, after the match, about can Andre the Giant be body slammed by Hulk Hogan. And in this match, you get Cody Rhodes automatically body slams Shaquille O'Neal. Now, in this pay-per-view, we have all of these crazy matches in which all these crazy wrestlers are pulling all these crazy finishing moves, and their opponent kicks out right away. If you're going to start kicking out of every single goddamn move, there's no more suspense being built up for us, the fans. There's no reason for me to watch the pay-per-view anymore.
Right. I get that argument, but at the same time, it's a tool used to push the opponent, right? Because you want to show them that this guy is strong, like he kicked out of like a finisher, like that's usually a tool to push someone over too. Like you don't want to be like the finisher to be necessarily like the be all end all. Like if you're doing the finisher on a particularly powerful opponent and he does kick, like it sets up a power level between the wrestlers in the event.
Right, but Aaron, it's not even just a finisher. It's just having a powerful move. It could be a pile driver, a body slam, a power slam. Who knows? They just kick out way too soon. We saw it throughout the whole entire pay-per-view, especially in the women's matches.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what is up with this? Again, going back to Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan would get his ass kicked. He wasn't like the greatest wrestler in the world. He had the charisma. He had the charm. He could sell the crowd. He could sell out arenas for 90,000 fans with Andre the Giant, okay? Like, this was the heyday of wrestling. We don't have that anymore. And so we get these wrestlers, they deliver this incredible, powerful move, and instead of just lying on the mat and selling it for the fans, like actually make it appear to be that you are injured and or hurt and or stunned, they get up right away. And the problem is, Aaron, a lot of times it's not the underdog that's doing it. It's the guy who's already a star. And I'm looking at you, Mr. Cody Rhodes, in the ladder match, taking 20,000 major bumps and getting up right away.
You're also comparing a wrestling match from 40 years ago to the modern era. I don't think they really equate to each other at this point.
Right. So the reason why I'm making that comparison, I could also go back to the days of like the Attitude Era when the ratings were through the roof. But it's because those are the two eras when the ratings were through the roof. Like everybody and their mom and dog and paw and grandpa and lizard and cat and dog walkers, dog uncles, grandmother, whatever was watching wrestling. The ratings were through the roof. And every time I talk to someone who
but the wrestling was terrible. That's the thing. Like, you could say what you want about the golden era of the WWF and the Attitude Era in the late 90s. The wrestling was terrible.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say the wrestling is terrible. I think the problem nowadays, and I say this every day, every single week on the podcast, is the wrestling is incredible, but it's the storytelling and the booking that I do not like. And I feel like they overbook a lot of their matches. I do think that overall this pay-per-view had some good matches. I think overall as a pay-per-view, it's my least favorite AEW pay-per-view to date. I'm not saying it's garbage. I'm not saying I wasted my money. I'm not saying I didn't like it. It's my least favorite. AEW usually puts on great pay-per-views. My next question, what's up with the women's champion taking these countless slaps from Ryo Mizunami at the start of the match when she's not even worked or hurt or injured or stunned? She just stands at the corner and continuously takes these chops. I don't get this.
Well, that's kind of like
That's just how just how Japan does things.
Yeah.
If you don't like that, don't watch Japanese wrestling.
But the problem is that Japanese wrestling is invading AEW, and that's the kind of thing we are seeing right now in AEW. And I personally do not like it because the thing is, I always use this example, is that you sort of create a universe and there are rules within your universe. Now, this can apply to a comic book series. It can apply to a movie, a TV show, so on and so forth. So within the wrestling world and within this specific wrestling promotion, AEW, there are rules. And I'll give you an example. We're going to talk about this later. Kenny Omega, he has a finisher called a one-winged angel. Has anyone ever kicked out of the finisher in AEW? I think only one person in history of wrestling has ever kicked out of it. But in AEW, has anyone ever kicked out of it? No, right? Okay, that's a rule. It's like a rule they apply. It's just like, it's like an unspoken rule. You just sort of like have to know it as this thing. If Jon Moxley or, whoever kicks out of the one-winged angel, it's no longer special. So what I'm trying to say here is that within this universe of AEW, like I find that there is nothing consistent, and that comes with the storytelling and with the booking.
It's because they don't fit a certain one style of wrestling into all of their matches like WWE does. They have, Lucha Libre wrestling with Pentagon and Phoenix and Thunder Rosa. They have technical stuff. They have Joshi stuff. They have strong style. They have anything you can imagine all in one show. And if a certain match or a certain style isn't for you, then that's fine. That match isn't for you.
I'm not talking about the style of wrestling. I'm talking about the storytelling, the booking that's happening in the ring, the decisions they make. It's not the style. It's the fact that if so-and-so gets pinned like 20 times and they kick out after receiving a finishing move, it doesn't matter what kind of style of wrestling they are performing. The bottom line is, like, for me as a fan, I'm just like, well, what's the point? Everyone just kicks out of everything these days. Like, there doesn't seem to be any special. It's like watching Mortal Kombat and everyone's pulling the finisher and the guy kicks out. The game's not over. Keep playing. So even though I did my finishing move, the game's not over. We keep playing our match. It's so stupid.
I get it, but you need I don't have too much of a problem with it because it is used for dramatical purposes. So, I mean, they're still telling the story in the middle of the ring, and I don't have as much of a problem as you do. So I'll just leave it as that.
Next question. Why pair up Chris Jericho and MJF, arguably the two most popular wrestlers, or at least heels in the company, make them win a tag team battle royale over all of these amazing tag teams like Santana and Ortiz, who people have been begging for a shot at the championship belt, have them win the tag team battle royale to become the number one contenders, only to have them lose right away the very first match at the pay-per-view against the Young Bucks.
So we can set up a really dumb segment Wednesday.
I know that's the answer, but we're leading to a discussion of why that's stupid. It's not good storytelling. There's better ways to set up the breakup or whatever it is they're doing. Not the breakup, I guess MJF. How did he word it? We need some changes to change in the inner circle.
It's a war. What was it? A war table meeting.
War council.
A war council meeting.
It seems so rushed. Like how many meetings and count? Like, didn't they just have like a meeting last week and the week before and the week before and the week before? I feel like we're in therapy here with this like inner circle group.
Oh, I get that entirely. The inner circle plot has been something that I've not been a fan of for a while. However, them not winning the belts is like bottom of the list in terms of problems with the inner circle. It's more just Jericho and MJF taking over 10 to 20 minutes of the show every single week, doing almost nothing at all.
Like, yeah, I totally agree with Chris too, because like out of all the matches, I was pretty sure that MJF and Chris Jericho were the walkout tag team champions, because like, I mean, keeping the belts on the Young Bucks is like, what more could you possibly like want storytelling wise from the Young Bucks for them to still keep the belt? I mean, like I felt like that Chris Jericho and MJF could tell more compelling stories as tag team champions than the Young Bucks, but like I guess AEW has a different plan.
The problem with having MJF and Jericho as the tag team champions is that there isn't a strong babyface tag team right now that could really compete with them. Like I know they just
but it would have been a good opportunity to introduce a babyface or bring up a babyface tag team to challenge MJF and Chris Jericho.
I agree with that, but at the same time, who would you go with?
Well, I think there's a lot of great tag teams in the roster.
Yeah, I mean, you still have like Jungle Boy, like Jurassic Express, right? I mean,
they're not gonna let Jurassic Express win anything. The fact that Jungle Boy got beat 2-on-1 by Pac and Ray Phoenix shows they don't want Jurassic Express to have anything for a long time.
Okay, so I think Pac and Phoenix is a good tag team to bring up. Jungle Boy, they're really pushing Jungle Boy. Everyone knows Jungle Boy's not going to go anywhere so long.
They're pushing Jungle Boy to lose all the time. I don't see how that's a push.
They're pushing Jungle Boy because he's a highlight. First of all, he won against Dax. So there's number one. It was a huge win for him. Yeah. Second of all, in the last match against FTR, he pretty much got his ass kicked 3 versus 1 until he finally got a tag. He was selling the match. He was the best performer in the match. He was arguably one of the best performers in the ladder match, which we're going to talk about soon. They are pushing him to showcase and highlight his skill and his talent in the ring. But so long as he's paired up with Luchasaurus and Marco Stunt, God forbid, he's never going to win gold, I don't think. I know they are a popular tag team. Like, they sell a lot of merch and they're really popular with fans. But the point I'm trying to make here, going back to the actual question, this was a tag team that just formed, Jericho and MJF. And it's also very unlike Jericho to have something change so quick, because his storylines throughout his whole entire career tend to last quite a while. Like, even the inner circle has been there since the very first episode of Dynamite. Yeah. So I'll be curious to see what happens on Wednesday with this quote unquote big change in the War Council. Mm-hmm. But for them to pair them as a tag team, lose, and then the tag team just splits, I find very odd.
I don't think they're splitting the tag team though. That's the thing.
I mean, right now, I'm assuming that we're under the assumption that like MJF might take over the inner circle and cast out Chris Jericho. I mean, that's what I think might happen, but who knows?
But again, that's an assumption. I personally don't think that's the direction that they're going with right now. They are going to build this for the next few months until some catalyst forces the breakup. I don't think they're just gonna be like, oh, they lost the tag titles, we're breaking up now.
Because I thought it was a good match. I think it's a good match. I still do think it's a good match. But
yeah, it's a great match.
The thing is that we talked about like this again in the last episode, like how I felt that the storytelling was a little bit done in reverse, how they could have sold the relationship between the Young Bucks and Papa Buck, their dad, before Jericho and MJF attacked them. So we as viewers have a better understanding of their relationship and how quote unquote so great the dad is and was to them growing up and such an influence for them and inspiration. But they did it in reverse. We got that speech, that monologue the week after Chris Jericho and MJF beat him up. And then we go into this match, and the weird thing, again, this is why I found it really odd, despite it being a great match, they are great storytellers in the ring, the Bucks. I mean, we saw it just, for example, in the pay-per-view, I think a year ago, when it was them against Hangman Page and Kenny Omega, right? They're fantastic at telling a story in the ring. But this match, they weren't telling a story in the ring. It was just a good match, but I didn't feel a story being told.
The first 5 minutes, it was more the Young Bucks going into a very brawling style, more aggressive, more to quote a certain other tag team, no flips, just fists for the early onset of the match. But later on, it just turned into standard issue Young Bucks affair.
Yeah.
It just lost its focus. Point is, it was a great match. I think we can all agree. I'm questioning the storytelling, and this is more of I'm worried about what's going to happen next. It's sort of like when you watch a TV show, like you're watching you're watching a season of Game of Thrones, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're on episode 3 and you start worrying about how it's going to end, and you get to episode 7, 8, 9, and it all makes sense. You're like, okay, now it makes sense, right? You need to watch the whole season to really understand what the writers are doing. I'm hoping at the end of this storyline, it all makes sense. Next question. Why was there a giant ring during the Battle Royale ladder match? Like, is there something I'm missing? Is it
because they didn't? They had to grab the brass ring. Do you get it? They grabbed the brass ring. Do you get it? Scorpio Sky grabbed the brass. Do you get it? Do you get the subtle imagery that they're trying to get at? Vince McMahon, according to backstage reports for several years, decades, or whatever, he wants talent to, quote, grab the brass ring, as in take it upon themselves to get themselves over, put on good matches, etc., etc.
Right.
But so again, in reality,
it has nothing to do with an actual like match or anything and supporting the history of wrestling. It's just an inside joke.
Yes.
Yeah, it was an inside joke.
It is literally just a wink and a nod to the crowd that gives a crap about Vince McMahon's weird quirks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Aaron, are you a fan of this? I know it's just a ring, but like I'm just curious.
About the ring or just like the whole like wink at Vince McMahon again? Because...
I mean both. They both go hand in hand, right? Like you put a big giant ring.
Well, my first impression when I saw that ring in the middle of the air was just like, the fuck, the hell is a Sonic stage now? Like it looked like a Sonic ring, you know?
Yeah.
So it was kind of jarring looking at it at first because like, I just keep thinking it's like I'm gonna expect a blue hedgehog to just jump out of nowhere and grab the ring. I don't know.
Yeah, I was in a group chat with some friends last night watching the pay-per-view, and basically we all came to the conclusion the winner of this match apparently gets to go after one of the Chaos Emeralds.
Yeah.
Now, if the Mystery Man was someone dressed in a Sonic outfit, would it make the match better?
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought this match was incredible, by the way. I think this was my favorite match. Ethan Page, so he was the Mystery Man.
Oh, yeah.
Were you happy with the announcement?
Oh, yeah. I love Ethan Page.
No, I like Ethan Page too. I just did not expect to see Ethan Page. It was a pleasant surprise. I'll say that.
It wasn't as I don't know what I was expecting for the Mystery Six person in the match, because I know they were hyping up the quote big signing that I'm sure we'll get to later, but I was like, I wonder who it's going to be as the sixth man, because like I assumed it might be like someone like a Sammy Guevara coming back from his hiatus, or some other person on the independent scene that they want to just give some rub to. But if they signed Ethan Page and they put him in that match and he put on the performance that he did, then hell yeah, brother, give me more of that, because Ethan Page is freaking phenomenal.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's probably one of the only wrestlers I've seen who can fight himself.
Yeah.
So like we talked about in our group chat yesterday, I was like, Karate Man? Okay. Yeah. That's like, okay.
Like, I was having to try to explain Karate Man to some of the people in the group chat who were a little bit older
and
don't watch Impact, and it's just probably best to not try to explain Karate Man right now, especially after his last Impact appearance. It's probably best we just don't talk about that.
Right. So in the last episode, we did talk about the possibility of having Sammy Guevara, which is what I was hoping for. I do like the introduction of Ethan Page in this match. I do wish Sammy did make an appearance, just because he's my favorite wrestler in the roster. But maybe it's a good thing. Maybe having us fans wait a little longer for Sammy to make an appearance will only make his appearance all the better.
No, I agree.
Okay, next question. Are we done with the Cody Rhodes Martyrs complex?
I'm no jokes aside, but yeah, I'm kind of done.
I'm very done with Cody. Jesus Christ, it is. If he turned heel, I would get it, but he's still a babyface, so it's just like.
It was very odd because, Cody is one of the hardest working men in this business. I mean, at least in AEW. He's, good reason for his success and the creation of AEW. We've seen him in countless amazing matches week after week defending the TNT championship, which, no offense to Darby Allin, who I love, has only defended the championship once. We've seen Cody in the steel cage match. We've seen Cody in like whatever, just getting his ass kicked, full of
He's
blood.
been a workhorse, absolutely.
Yeah,
Exactly.
for sure.
So here, I think
he took half the match off because he didn't want to work.
Well, I think the problem. I think the reason why people are having a problem with this. I mean, specifically this match. I know some people have a problem with him in general. I happen to love Cody Rhodes and think he's amazing, but with this match, it's because this match is specifically designed, I think, to put over guys, and even though they're kind of over, but to really, push guys like Lance Archer, Scorpio Sky, and everyone in this match, basically put them more in a spotlight, especially for the casual viewer, someone checking in for the first time, or people who are not yet fans of these guys for whatever reason. And when you have Cody Rhodes, and I don't know if this is a problem with the cameraman or the director, or the cameraman or the switchboard operator, because he's present in the whole entire match, despite the fact that he's not fighting the match.
Oh yeah, just standing on the entranceway, just sort of chilling, not getting looked at by medical professionals, just watching the match happen.
But is that his fault? Did he know he was on camera?
Oh, for sure. That has to be intentional, because you're selling the fact that Cody wants to go back in there, but all these trainers are like, no, don't go back in there. So he keeps peeking his head out. He's like saying, like, no, I think I can go back.
But he wasn't getting looked at was the problem. Like, most of the shots you see of Cody, he's just standing there and everyone else is just standing around him like, yep, you sure are Cody Rhodes. Hallowed be thy name.
Because when Randy Orton did it at the Royal Rumble, for example, he disappeared. He wasn't in the background for the entire match, distracting the viewers. That's the issue with this specific Cody Rhodes. Look at me, feel for me. I'm injured. I'm hurt. I'm going to go back to the ring and fight my ass off against Scorpio Sky. It's still all about Cody Rhodes. It's very weird. I honestly thought that Lance Archer was going to win. And I think Lance Archer and Darby Allin will have a fantastic match. I'll be interested to see what happens to Scorpio Sky and Darby Allin on Wednesday, but I'm really, really surprised Lance Archer did not win this match.
I am too. My problem with the ladder match is that it went on way too goddamn long.
Well, yeah.
I feel like the ladder match went on for about 3 years.
I like having Cody Rhodes walk back and forth in the entrance kind of like sucked away the momentum of the match, because like while you're watching the match, you're kind of like drawn to like Cody Rhodes, thinking like, well, what is he gonna do next? Like, why are we still, focusing kind of on Cody Rhodes? So,
okay, so I've got the Wikipedia for the pay-per-view. The ladder match itself took 23 minutes 15 seconds. I swear to God, it felt like 43.
Yeah, I felt that way too.
I still love this match. This is one of my favorite matches of the night, if not my favorite. But I understand what you're saying. But we did get the introduction of Ethan Page, or the big surprise. We did have Scorpio Sky win, which I think was a surprise for most of us. Lance Archer put on a show. Penta put on a show. Max put on a show.
Yeah, he put on a heck of a show, man. That was pretty good.
He won some brownie points with me, considering I've not been huge on the Acclaimed so far, and his pre-match promos have never been anything that I give a crap about, but he can work, and I was pleasantly surprised.
All right, 3 more questions before we move on to the first of 2 main events. Was the Casino Tag Team Royale the second best match of the night?
I feel like the later half of it, probably.
No, because it was like, no, it just wasn't. I wouldn't even put it in my top 3 for the night.
I enjoyed the later half of it, but like there were a couple of like botched moves in that match. Plus, I don't know how I feel about like having the timer like present for all the wrestlers to see, because like clearly they can see that they're like rushing to get their spot before having the next wrestler come on. So
I mean, is it better or worse than the quote 90-second unquote timer in the Royal Rumble that clearly goes on for about 5 minutes?
I don't know if it's better, because it's like I feel like it just takes away some spots for wrestlers, right? Because like when they can't see the timer, they can go about doing whatever they want, but it's like with the timer present, like you feel like they gotta rush to get to their spot before like having the next wrestler come in. So
yeah.
So I don't know if I would say it's the second best match of the night, but I do think it had maybe perhaps the second best finish of the night. And we're going to talk about a finish that didn't go right at the end of the show. But I really did like the finish. I like who they chose to be the last 6 people, especially the last 3 people. Again, once again, sort of like pushing Jungle Boy a little bit more. Of course, we got Pac and Phoenix at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I thought there's a lot of great storytelling throughout the match, like what happened with QT Marshall, like right away automatic heel turn. There's a lot of storytelling throughout this match, and that this match did a lot of what the other matches didn't do in terms of telling an actual story or stories throughout the match.
No, I agree. And just to add, it had probably like one of the best botches in the night, where like Evil Uno
eliminating himself.
Yeah, exactly. Evil Uno no sells like Marco stuns her Corona off like the apron, and then like Evil Uno's like puzzled and just like runs right into like the post.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, it was
Which
beautiful.
they referenced that on BTE today, so that was.
Oh, did
really?
they? I didn't watch it yet.
Are we over Miro's storyline now?
Yes.
Yes.
I was over Miro being part of the storyline when I found out Miro was part of the storyline. Like when I found out that they're using freaking Miro in an undercard comedy feud with Orange Cassidy, Chuck Taylor, and Trent Beretta, I was like, oh god, make the pain stop. I can't do this anymore. It's just Rusev all over again.
I was over it. I was putting up with it for a while, and I was hoping that it would end at Beach Break, and it just kept going and going and going, and it's like, please just end this man now, like end his misery or something.
Like if this has to be the end of the feud, right? We can't unless
I
they plan on keeping this going until Trent's healthy.
Oh God, I hope not. I hope not.
I mean, I'm going to ask a question. I know it's a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it regardless. Like, what was the point in having Miro attack Orange Cassidy and Charles before the match even starts? Because he's going to kick their ass anyway
to get heat.
Yeah, it's just to show that, you know, no more time for games. Like, game's over, and you know, we're gonna go with Miro being like an absolute.
We're not gonna have a fun match anymore. And then they proceeded to have Orange Cassidy do the kick spot.
But like, I mean, is it just me, or if the storyline is hopefully over, it was not needed? Just let these guys have a good match and the storyline. Like, why beat them up before and then they can't have a decent match because they're apparently already too injured to have a decent match?
And the thing, it killed the momentum of the pay-per-view because I thought the women's title match was fucking incredible. And then the very next thing I see is Miro attacking Chuck and Orange backstage, and I'm like, oh god, it's going to be one of those matches, isn't it?
It did kill the momentum because I was like, this could have just easily been like a Dynamite thing, you know, like it didn't need.
No,
to
but
be
it could have been the buy-in match. That's what I don't understand.
Yeah.
It was the worst match of the night. It's the worst storyline ever in the history of AEW, and it followed like what is arguably.
Oh god, no, it's not.
Really, you don't think this is the worst match?
Oh, Brandy and Awesome Kong was way worse than this.
It was way worse, but given the talent involved, I would put this a little bit lower because it's Miro. It kind of ruined Orange Cassidy for many people. It's been going on way longer than the Brandy storyline ever went.
That's fair.
All of those little factors, I would actually say it's worse. You know?
Yeah, that's fair.
And this happened right after the women's match, which, like you said, Chris, was great. It was fantastic. So you go from this high to like the lowest of lows. All right, last question. Woo. What was more underwhelming, the introduction of Christian or the end of the pay-per-view?
Oh, the end of the pay-per-view. Jesus Christ, I popped so fucking huge when Christian came out.
No. I was so happy. Okay, first of all, in the last episode, we talked about the fact that it was most likely Christian. We went over a few names, and Christian was the guy that we kind of like landed on. I was really happy Christian came out. I know he's 47 years old. The reason why I'm happy is because I think it's what he can bring to AEW, the roster, the young guys. In terms of like you look at a guy like Matt Hardy and how he's helping Private Party, for example. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean I want to see Christian in a pay-per-view event every single pay-per-view, or see Christian on Dynamite every single week on a match against like Matt Hardy. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not watching Raw from like 20 years ago. I'm watching AEW 2021. But I think having him as a talent, it's a good thing for AEW. It's just his introduction. Like, he walked in, he signed the paper, and he left. It's like, where are you going, buddy? Can't you pick up the
I mean, in fairness, that's sort of... They announced he was going to sign. They didn't announce he was going to do anything. That's the only fairness I can give to it. But, like, I didn't care because I've been a huge fan of Christian since I was old enough to remember watching wrestling. And just... I heard Christian's TNA music, and I freaked the hell out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask, was it the same music used for TNA, or just sounded similar? Okay.
It was the exact same music. They might have done some like minor tweaks to it, but it is essentially the same song.
You tell me, okay? Did Tony Khan do injustice to Christian by hyping it up so much?
I don't think he did an injustice at all, because you need, like, it's getting him over before even having to do anything in
okay, but let me just rephrase my question. Because the internet and because wrestling fans are so picky and everyone's online complaining because they expected CM Punk and or Brock Lesnar or all these people dreaming about people like Cena, etc., etc.
Well, that's just idiots online having way too unrealistic expectations.
But that's the thing. Like, is
yes?
I guess we blame the fans for thinking that way, but not Tony Khan for just trying to sell people to buy into the pay-per-view.
For sure, it's for a way to buy in people to the pay-per-view, but to have...
But at the same time, was there anything Tony Khan said that was wrong?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was just going to get.
Like, it's not about being wrong or right. It's about how do you market the show. And this is what I'm asking here right now. So, like, for example, there's two ways he could have gone about it. Well, there's numerous ways. Let's just look at two ways. So there's the way in which they did it, which Paul White comes out on Dynamite. He has a scoop, and the scoop is, we're going to sign someone Hall of Fame status. It's going to be huge. Tune into Revolution. So the internet starts going crazy and speculating who it is, right? And then you have a different way of doing it in which Christian just shows up. And then all of a sudden the internet pops and blows up and everyone's on Twitter going crazy about Christian showing up, and there's no one let down because there was no build up or lead up.
Would you rather have the internet talking about it for 4 days or talking about it for 4 hours?
It depends. This is what I'm trying to say. Like, when it comes to actually marketing the show, I'm not sure which is better, because it's hard. We can't say, right? We don't know how many people actually ordered the pay-per-view, and I'm only to bet zero, just because they want to know who shows up. Because you could just go on Twitter and follow, AEW Twitter, right? You're not going to spend $40 to just see a guy walk out.
Listen, if they got one more set of eyeballs on the pay-per-view, it's a success.
And plus, like, just to say, like, I people who are like disappointed that it's Christian, but because like a lot of people tend to make the argument that he's like, oh, he's a mid-carder, like what kind of like legend is he? Like, his run in TNA, he was like
the guy.
Yeah, he was
essentially.
He was a freaking superstar in TNA. So I don't know. I don't know what to say. Like, I mean, it is what it is, right? Because like even when we were like spitballing like ideas of like who's gonna show up, it's like, I'll admit, like, we said CM Punk, we said Brock Lesnar, like to their own rights, like, yeah, they're legends, they are legends, but I feel like at the same time, like, we kind of have to temper our expectations, like, given the situation, maybe like I wanted CM Punk to show up. I think a lot of people want CM Punk to show up, but like, I don't think he was gonna show. Like, the only way I feel like CM Punk's gonna show up is got to be like when it's a full packed arena. That's my feeling
it'll only be in Chicago.
Yeah.
My opinion and what I would have liked to see as a fan is, I like the idea of teasing the sixth man for the ladder match, because we know someone's missing on the card. Because it's billed as a six-man ladder match, we know only 5 men have been announced so far. That makes sense. And then we get the introduction of Ethan Page and everyone goes crazy. But because we already had the mystery man for the ladder match, I didn't think they needed to announce the fact that they were going to sign Christian at the pay-per-view. I think that having that one mystery man was enough, and having Christian just kind of show up out of nowhere, for me as a fan, I think it might have. I mean, because I'm a fan of Christian, I was satisfied watching him walk out. I think it would have been a little bit more special had he walked out without having Tony Khan, tease the fact that we're gonna have a second superstar. Mm-hmm. But I think for most wrestling fans, it still would have worked better, because unfortunately, they do have their expectations way too high. They are expecting they are expecting Brock Lesnar and or CM Punk, and a lot of people were let down. So I just think that in this case, it would have been better if they just didn't say anything. With Paul White, it was weird. They did the complete reverse. They actually announced his signing on Twitter, but it made sense, I guess, to me, because he's really first and foremost going to be an announcer. He did say he might wrestle here and there, and he's going to prepare and train to do a few wrestling matches, but he's really there to announce with Tony Schiavone. So that kind of made sense, because you don't really want an announcer to come out of nowhere. You know, like, he's an announcer. You're not going to have him show up like Edge in the Royal Rumble and have the crowd pops and you find out he's just an announcer. That would have like worked against the whole big introduction.
Well, you know what? I mean, with all this setup, then it just means that Christian is in for like a pretty big job in AEW. Then, I mean, to have all this set up, so I have high I have high expectations if that's going to be the case. Plus, anyway, at the end of the day, I'm just glad it's not Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, Christian's like 47. I'm not sure how old Kurt Angle is, but the main difference between Angle and Christian is that when Kurt Angle goes on a podcast and gets interviewed, he always talks about how much pain he's in every single day and night, and he can barely like walk. And so you don't want to see a guy like that in the wrestling.
No, you don't.
All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the cinematic match between Sting and Darby Allin and Ricky Starks and Brian Cage.
What is next for the Inner Circle?
Failed? We failed to win the titles? You want to get your ass kicked, Marvis, you fathead idiot? Huh? We know we lost the match tonight. We should be the AEW World Tag Team Champions. We are better than the Young Bucks, and they know it, to paraphrase this guy. But the Inner Circle's been through so much over the last few months. Look how depleted we are right now. But we're an army. We are well-trained soldiers. And like any great army that needs to change its battle plans in the middle of a war, we're going to do that this Wednesday when we have the Inner Circle War Council. There's going to be some changes in this faction, and you're going to hear all about them on Wednesday. Isn't that right, Max?
You know what, Chris? You're right. I've been thinking about this an awful lot, and it is time for a change. And I think a change can make the Inner Circle a whole lot better.
All right, you're back here on Talk AEW. Ricky D here with Aaron Santos and guest Christopher Wright from GoombaStomp.com. So we're going to talk about the cinematic match. Cage, Starks, Sting, Allin. First of all, do you guys like cinematic matches?
No, but I'll make an exception for this one, by God.
I don't mind cinematic matches unless it's done right, which I found it was okay in this cinematic match in particular.
I do not like cinematic matches. I did love the Stadium Stampede. And the reason why I love the Stadium Stampede is because they kept it really simple in terms of the production values. Like, it wasn't like all kinds of fancy quick cuts and black and white cinematography. And it was just a bunch of guys roaming around the stadium and getting into a brawl. And it was super funny. We had Paige on a horse and whatever. We're not going to review that match again. We already did it. Go back to the archive and listen to that episode. This match was completely different. I liked it and I didn't like it. So what I didn't like was I didn't like the commentary track over what they filmed in advance.
Yeah, that was a bit awkward.
Yeah,
it was weird, right? It was really awkward.
It was super off-putting, especially because there are moments inside during the event where Taz is doing color commentating. But at the same time, some of the stuff he says, it clearly sounds like it's forced, because that's how can you not have watched this beforehand and got your approval, right? I mean, it just sounded so fake. That was my problem.
Yeah, because you could tell at certain times Taz was saying things like, "Oh, we've got a plan," when he clearly did not know what that plan was, because he was not involved in the production of the match.
He called out Will Hobbs before even ripping off his mask.
Yeah.
So it was okay.
So you think they watched a match and then watched the match again and did commentary?
My argument was Taz pretending that he didn't know what was going on.
Oh, Taz. Okay, yeah. I mean, as a group, they're clearly, I think, Tony, Excalibur, and
no, they don't know for sure.
JR
I mean, they sounded genuinely surprised, but Taz was so forced.
there was one moment when one of them, I don't know if it was Tony or whoever, thought that he was going to throw Darby Allin out the window, which I did too.
And then he made that exact same comment a second time, and it's just like, is that the only line you have, Tony?
Yeah, so it's weird. I love the way it's shot. I love the lighting. I love the stretches of black and white footage. I thought it was a nice touch to have Darby Allin and Sting drive into the arena with a gang of hoodlums marching towards the ring. I thought that was like, I don't know, it reminded me like, remember when Sting in WCW, there was all these fake Stings that marched to the ring at one point in time?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it reminded me of that day when NWO was in the ring, and all of a sudden a Sting pops up, and the second Sting, and a third Sting, and the fourth, fifth, and sixth. The next thing you know, there's like 12 Stings in the ring, and then finally the real Sting shows up. It reminded me of that. I like this match. I want to watch the match without the commentary again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I think I would like it a lot more.
My problem with the commentary is the problem that I have with a lot of AEW commentary is that there are too many people on the mic, and two of them are way too old to be trying to cover modern wrestling.
In this sort of match, Excalibur is kind of useless because he spends half the match talking about the history of wrestling and calling every single freaking move.
Mm-hmm.
So what's he going to do in this kind of match? And then JR maybe seems a little out of place. I think Tony can work this match, though. And I think Taz, the problem
JR sounded sick last night.
He was sick.
Yeah.
He was sick. He was losing his voice. And I think the problem with Taz is that he, like you said, I think he watched a match in advance and it seemed kind of phony. He's not a good actor, so the fact that he's trying to pretend like he never saw the match, and it's cool you've seen the match, works against his commentary. But okay, can we talk about the highlights? So I'm gonna mention one. You guys can mention one. So Brian Cage lifts up Darby Allin, puts him in a vertical suplex or vertical stand, whatever you call it, and walks up the stairs.
Yeah.
That was incredible.
That's pretty.
You know, the guy could have just walked up the stairs and dragged Darby Allin. No, he has to put him on his shoulders and lift him up to the sky and walk up the stairs. That was one of my highlights.
One of my highlights is definitely going to be, Darby Allin jumping from the third floor or second floor of the warehouse onto the middle of it looked like
just
an
murdered Brian Cage and sending him to hell.
Yeah, exactly. It just looked like an endless abyss. So that was a nice spot.
Oh damn, that was gonna be my highlight. Mostly just little things in the cinematography. Like there were a lot of long uninterrupted cuts, which is something you definitely don't see, especially in WWE, because they are the kings of quick cuts, lots of camera movement, etc., etc. This match, it felt very deliberate with every single camera shot. It almost felt like they knew how the hell to make a movie, which, from what I've read, Darby Allin was the one mainly in charge of putting the match together, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, him and his creative team are always in charge of his promotions, and in this case, he was in charge of overseeing the look of the match, the sort of cinematography, the camera shots that they would use, the framing of the shots. There's some beautiful shots, for example, when you talk about the framing, where he's on the floor and he's crawling towards the camera, and it's one of those classic shots you see in horror films where the person's crawling towards the camera, and then, I don't know, someone grabs him and starts dragging him across the floor. In terms of highlights, there was also the moment in which he went through the pane of glass, which looked like it hurt, I won't lie. And then there was the great scene in which JR says, "Oh my God, he's acting like Spider," and he pauses and doesn't continue the sentence, like he thinks he's going to get sued by Marvel, but he climbs up the wall like Spider-Man.
Oh, and another just little personal highlight is just Sting and Darby wearing half of each other's makeup. I thought that was cute.
Darby Allin finally, thank God, changed his outfit. I liked it way better than what he normally wears. And Ricky Starks and Brian Cage, especially when it started, because, they walk out and they're driving a Lamborghini. I thought that opening segment looked like the Fast and Furious movies. Was
Ricky Starks wearing a flak jacket at the start of this?
I think so.
Why?
I think so. Is that what you call it? It's sort of like a vest?
Yeah, I swear to God, I thought he was trying to channel his inner Roman Reigns, and I was just so distracted by that. But at 2 minutes in, he ditched it, and he was just wearing a tank top, and then eventually no shirt. And I'm like, okay.
Was there Ricky Starks? I'm pretty sure it was Will Hobbs that was wearing a flak jacket. Well, during the streets, man.
I guess
the lighting was. It looked good. There were times where you can actually see the spotlights in the background, which is never a good thing.
Right.
That's more about the way the cameraman placed his camera. I think that's more to blame of the cameraman and not necessarily the cinematographer. But whatever, it's a wrestling match. It's not like they're gonna like be able to tell the wrestlers exactly where to stand for every single second of the match. But no, there are so many great spots. Like, I mean, they put Brian Cage through a table at one point in time. Darby Allin takes the bat, he throws it a Sting from across the building.
I don't know why, but I got like Zelda vibes from that for some reason. It's like I don't know. I can just picture Darby Allin like just telling him like, "Here, you're gonna need this."
Yeah. So here's the thing. I'm just gonna say this. I don't really have much to say about this match apart from the fact I just really love it for several reasons. I like all four performers. They're four of my favorite wrestlers in AEW. Darby Allin, I think, is maybe my favorite at this point in time. I love this guy. Yeah. And I think it's just because it's not just him in the ring. It's everything about him. It's his talent in the ring, but it's also his personality, his charisma, the fact that he's able to direct these incredible creative like video packages. And by the way, Hook, because we actually see Hook wrestle, and the dude looks like he's like what? He's like 18? He looks like he's got a lot of potential. I know clearly his dad is Taz, so I'm sure he's learning how to wrestle properly, but I was kind of like really impressed to see him and Will Hobbs walk out and, sort of like take control of the match, but not take control of the whole entire match, just a portion of the match. And then eventually they evened out things because of, clearly they wanted Sting and Darby Allin to win. But I don't know. I like this match. All I'm going to say is that if you do have a problem with the commentary, try to go back and watch it without the commentary if possible.
Two more points on this match in particular before we move on. One, I thought Darby Allin was skinny, and then I saw Hook. That was off-putting. Second point, please, for the love of God, let this be the end of the feud so we can move the hell on.
It'd have to be the end. I mean, I don't see what else could
because I want to see Darby Allin doing different stuff. I want to see Brian Cage doing different stuff. I really want to see Ricky Starks doing different stuff. I want to see Will Hobbs actually wrestle. I don't think Will Hobbs has wrestled on Dynamite since he teamed with Moxley and Darby that one time.
Well, look, if this is the end of the feud, which I think it is, I think it was perfectly fine. Like, it didn't overstay its welcome like the Miro storyline. We had the great match, which you just pointed out with who was it? It was Hobbs and no, wasn't it Brian Cage and Ricky Starks versus Cody Rhodes and Darby Allin?
Oh, you're talking about like.
I don't even remember. This feud has gone on for months. It's all just a blur to me at this point.
I think so. It was the match on Dynamite. It was a great match. Cage picked up Darby Allin and he threw him out of the ring onto the medical doctor's table, whatever you call it.
Well, I mean, technically, if you wanted to go with the start of the feud was Brian Cage debuting at the ladder match last year and murdering Darby.
Oh, right. You're right. Yeah, that was the start of the feud. So but I don't think it's overstayed its welcome. And I think if this is the end, it's a fantastic way to end it. And I still think my favorite shot is when Darby picks up the bat, he spins it, and the lighting and the camera shot when we get him walking past the camera and he throws the bat to Sting. My God, it looks like a Hollywood feature film. Like, I know a lot of people like the Boneyard match too from WrestleMania. I actually kind of prefer this match.
Oh, it's definitely up there.
Really quick before we move on to the last segment of the podcast, are you guys satisfied with Sting getting the pin on Ricky Starks?
Yes. I'm okay with it. I mean, who else?
Darby could have pinned Ricky and it would have been fine.
I feel like you just need to get like Sting to get his sort of comeuppance, I guess, or like get him over.
Do you need to? It's Sting.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, because I'm just thinking, I'm like, just to have, I guess for like a career highlight, right, or a career moment, is having him pin like in the cinematic match.
So I don't know if you remember how it ended, Aaron, and this kind of comes full circle to, not full circle, but it kind of brings us back to the start of this podcast. They both get in the ring, Ricky Starks and Sting, and Ricky Starks gives Sting the spear, and Sting kicks out.
Yeah.
And I know Sting's an icon and a legend, but he's also 61 years old, and it's Ricky Starks giving a spear. I don't really mind it so much because it's Sting. but it's one of many examples how in this pay-per-view we do have people kicking out of like powerful moves.
It's also not Darby's finisher, or Ricky's finisher, I mean.
It's his signature move. His finisher is I forget what it's called, but anyways, yeah.
But either way, it's not his finisher, and also the dude's about 160 pounds soaking wet. Sting, I don't think, has been below 230 since he started wrestling. I don't think a spear from someone as small as Ricky Starks is going to do that much to him, 61 or otherwise.
All right, maybe not. Great match. Can't wait to see what they do with Sting in the future, although I can't imagine them just doing another cinematic match so quickly, so soon with Sting. I don't know. Maybe he's just going to be Darby's manager. Who knows? Just having Sting around is good enough for me. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the Kenny Omega-John Moxley match.
Scorpio Sky, congratulations. You emerged victorious here tonight.
I said it before. This revolution needs a revolution. And now I am the face of that revolution. Get used to it.
You're back here on Talk AEW. Ricky D here with Aaron Santos and Chris Wright, and we are going to now finish off the show by talking about the Kenny Omega-John Moxley match at AEW Revolution. Okay, now I know something really, really bad happened towards the end of the match, or maybe not bad, but sort of like a letdown. Let's put it on hold for a second. Let's focus on the positives. These two men put on a clinic. They killed themselves. And I say this because a lot of people on Twitter are asking for their money back. And I'm like, you guys are on crack. Mm-hmm. You do not ask for your money back when these two wrestlers sacrificed their bodies and their careers for you, the fans, because they cannot be blamed for whoever set up the ring, the technicians. I don't know what you call those people. Moxley and Omega really surprised me. I was worried about this match, and I got to tell you, despite what happened in the end, which we'll get to soon, I actually think I like this match a lot.
It was a great match, and they absolutely killed themselves for what they were trying to do. But like, I don't know, we'll get to the end eventually.
Yeah, it's good because I remembered our conversations on previous podcasts because you guys were kind of afraid of this match happening, you know. But I'm glad that you guys are enjoying it. I thought like the match was really good. I mean, it was entertaining, really nice back and forth. And the whole suspense in the beginning, right? Like who's gonna touch the barbed wire first? It was nice.
Yeah, I think that's why I liked it a lot, because of the suspense. From bell to bell, there was suspense, and again, we'll get to the ending soon. But regardless of the ending, there was suspense throughout the whole entire match. The reason, Aaron, why I think Mariko and I were a little nervous about the match, it's because we weren't so hot on the Moxley Eddie Kingston match, which I know was a completely different match. It was a hardcore match, but it didn't have like exploding barbed wire, but still, we thought that match was like kind of like a letdown. It was okay. I thought we might just have a match where something goes horribly wrong and therefore the match would be okay. Now, something did go wrong, but it wasn't in the middle of the match. Like, we still had a great match. Like, I mean? So there's a lot of great spots. There's a lot of scary spots. But yeah, the buildup, especially if you've never seen this type of match before in your life, and when they tease the audience, like who's going to hit the barbed wire first, and they do it several times before. I think Moxley was the first one to hit the barbed wire, and it explodes. That was pretty well done.
Yeah, it is, because I mean, before watching this, I went back to watch like a couple like FNW like exploding barbed wire death matches, and it definitely took a page from like the Onita and Terry Funk match.
You can't really compare to those matches back in the day, because nowadays you couldn't get away with what they did back in the days because they just would not allow it.
Singe marks on their bodies, man.
Oh yeah,
yeah. They wouldn't allow it for legal reasons, insurance reasons, laws, like actual laws. Like you can't. It's hard to compare to those matches back in the day.
Yeah.
And for anyone who doesn't know, because I saw a few people talking about this on Twitter last night, they didn't put the barbed wire explosives on all four sides of the ring for three reasons, one of which is obvious because they need to get in and out of the ring. But not just the wrestlers. Reason number two is because the actual doctors, the medical staff needs to be able to get in the ring right away in case something happens, in case something goes wrong. And that includes the referee, who, by the way, was dressed in a bomb suit. He needs to get in and out of the ring as soon as possible. So they need to clear up one side of the ring, and that is why that specific side of the ring did not have barbed wire explosives.
Everything up until Gallows and Anderson showed up was great.
Yep.
Then Gallows and Anderson showed up, and I think I hated this match more than anything on the show, and that's saying something because you heard how passionately I hated the Miro match.
I would say, like, if this match was 30 minutes long, I would say about 22 minutes of it was fantastic. I hated the fact that they showed up. I don't understand the point in even having them show up and interfere. Couldn't we just have a great match with Moxley and Kenny Omega, despite the fact that he's a heel or not? He doesn't need any more heat, and he's considered one of the greatest wrestlers in the world. So, like, you don't need his friends to walk in there and make it 3 against 1. That's not the match I signed up for. That's not the, like, I actually kind of want my money back because of that. Not because of what happened at the end of the match, because those guys showed up and you ruined what was a great match. Thanks a lot, Tony Khan, whoever booked this match.
Like, the one thing that I'll give them credit for is, like, the exploding barbed wire baseball bat. I thought that was a fun spot. But just them running in, beating up Moxley for hell and ever, and just killing him and killing him and killing him, and then you hit the one-winged angel, and then it's just like, you're having a great match, and then you just decided, okay, we're not going to have fun anymore.
Yeah.
I think this could have worked, because I get what they were going for. They were trying to get a beatdown on Moxley so bad that Moxley wouldn't be able to leave the ring so they can have the whole countdown and the ring explodes. But Kenny Omega could have won the match, and then they walk in and do their shit.
Yeah,
beat him up.
Yeah, I totally
not
agree.
during the match.
Because I hated it when Anderson and Gallows came down, because it was like it totally deflated from like the build up and the intensity that was happening in the ring, and now you're putting on an angle on Kenny Omega that he can't finish his matches without help from the outside. So I mean, it's just a bad way to like.
It also kills the gimmick because you put the barbed wire around there. It's like, oh, no one can get in, no one can get out,
exactly,
no one can escape.
Because
then just like Gallows and just walk in casually, like it's no big fucking deal. It's just
exactly.
Why?
That's what I was trying to say. Like it deflates from the whole match, because like you create this atmosphere of like this is a dangerous zone. They're like landmines around the ring, blah blah blah, and then you got these two like just running up into the ring and totally interfering with the match. So it's like it just takes away like the mysticism of the match.
Yeah, and I'm not liking these guys at all. Like ever since they got introduced in AEW, I'm sorry, like I don't watch Impact. I just don't have time to watch that show. I know there's great wrestlers on the show, but I don't need your wrestlers from Impact coming to AEW and ruining every single freaking match. These guys have done nothing to make AEW a better show. They've been in one match, which was a 3 versus 3 match, which was okay. They were like the worst part of the match. And every time they show up on AEW, I find they take valuable screen time from the people who are actually employed by AEW and Tony Khan, and they bring nothing to AEW Dynamite. And it makes me hate the whole partnership with Impact more and more each and every single week. Now, I know Tony Khan is doing great things for wrestling, and he's employing people who need jobs right now during the pandemic. And he has all of these wrestlers from different promotions working on Dynamite and Dark, and God bless them, fantastic. But these dudes, man, like you need to use them better. And I don't know whose idea this is. I think there's too many cooks in the kitchen. I think there's too many friends of friends, and everyone's trying to do everybody a favor. They're not doing anything for AEW at all right now, and they freaking ruined the ending of this match. What ruined the match, it wasn't the fact that the explosions went off in the worst way possible at the end of the match. What ruined the match was them running into the match and ruining what could have been an amazing finish. Because the best moment of the entire pay-per-view was when Kenny Omega gave Jon Moxley the one-winged angel. And no one kicks out of that move, but he didn't kick out. His foot touched the rope. It broke up the pin, right?
Yeah,
that was amazing. We didn't need the young brother, blood brothers, dude brothers, impact brothers. We didn't need these dudes in the ring. They pissed me off.
No, I totally agree, because like I said earlier, like it just totally deflated the match.
It also didn't help that this was it was the fourth match in a row that involved some kind of run-in, because the Adam Page Matt Hardy match had
Isaiah Cassidy
had a run-in from Private Party in the Dark Order. The ladder match? I feel like the ladder match had a run-in. I just can't remember who the hell it was.
Well, Sting and Darby Allin had a run-in with Hobbs.
Yeah, from Cage and Hobbs. There were just too many run-ins. There was just too much interference. There was just too much BS, and it felt like a TNA pay-per-view from 2007, and Vince Russo's just like, bro, what can we do to keep people's attention, bro?
Let's get to the end of the match. Now, I don't know about you guys, so I love the idea of the announcers teasing the fact that the ring would explode within 30 minutes and they need to win the match within 30 minutes, and then we get the countdown, which the countdown itself was weird because it was like a doomsday clock, but whatever. I didn't mind the sound effects or anything. I just like
the doomsday clock at 10 minutes lasted way too long.
But I like the idea of the build-up, right?
Yeah.
Hitchcock would be proud, the master of suspense, the way he would build to a bomb in one of his films, for example. When the explosion went off or didn't really go off, the problem was, well, there's two problems. Number one, they screwed up. But number two is because Eddie Kingston...
That's the best.
Sold it like he fucking got hit with a nuke.
That was the fucking best.
When Eddie Kingston ran out, I think that got the biggest pop for me. I just like, oh my god, yes, Eddie Kingston.
Eddie Kingston's gonna save his brother. They're gonna rebuild this friendship. It's gonna be great as this and that, and then just like Gilbert's pyro went off and Eddie Kingston died.
Yeah.
This is what I initially thought. I swear to God, I thought, okay, they were joking. Like Don Callis was sort of like teasing that, ha ha ha, we're gonna have a big explosion. Joke's on you. It's not really an explosion. It's just like fireworks, right?
Well, that's what Tony Khan is trying to sell right now, is that Kenny Omega like screwed up the bomb making.
No, he's trying to sell that because they actually screwed it up. But when I was watching it live, I honestly thought that what I thought was going to happen
was a swerve.
I thought it was going to be a swerve. Like I thought Don Callis would start laughing. He's like, "Ha ha, we got you guys. You all thought we were really going to explode the ring." And then Kingston gets up. The problem here, and the reason why you can't sell that angle, Aaron, is because Eddie Kingston didn't get up.
No,
when
I know.
they rolled him over,
me,
he was acting like he was unconscious. That's the problem.
And commentary is just freaking out, like, oh my god, the humanity, these two are dead. The ring is literally blowing up in front of us, and like, there's some sparklers going off.
It's just a
like, mild firecracker can be heard going off 20 feet away from everything.
Yeah. It's just
someone said bang really loud and someone got scared.
Yeah, it's just the way that everyone sold it. Like, it just makes you feel bad for the wrestlers, like, or it makes you feel bad too for Eddie Kingston's, like, because he doesn't know what's going on. He's just trying to like do his job and sell the explosion, but it's just like, oh man.
In a situation like that, you got to call an audible. You got to realize nothing happened. We got to fucking call an audible and try to make something out of this.
Well, exactly too. Like, you would think that like John Moxley probably caught a glimpse of what happened, because he like, I don't know if you guys saw like the post video after, but like he cut a promo after, and he called out like, you know, Kenny Omega can't make a bomb for shit, blah blah blah. But he must have seen what happened. Like, he could have like tapped Eddie Kingston's like, hey, they kind of up here. Like, you know,
gotta call it audible quick, do something.
Yeah,
that's what I don't understand. So this is what I'm
also another botch during that whole sequence. The handcuffs broke, so John Moxley's hands weren't binded, so he could have just gotten out of there. But they had to sell it like his hands were still.
Yes and no. I mean, he was beaten to a bloody pulp, so I can buy that. Like that is an acceptable botch. Like, you can, because he was beaten up, right? It's not like what's his face at the Royal Rumble and they couldn't get the handcuffs off the guy.
Yeah.
But but what I don't understand is like, again, what I don't understand is Eddie Kingston. He goes to save Moxley, but like, dude, like about 5 minutes passed and he's still on top of Moxley. Like, you're telling me that within
just drag him out.
But within that time, like, nobody could have like been like, isn't there a way for them to communicate with Eddie Kingston? And also when they went into the ring and, you know, they pull Eddie off of John Moxley, couldn't they whisper in his ear, say like, we messed up, like
he was still selling it after that.
Yeah,
That's
like when
wild.
Moxley was cutting his promo, how Kenny Omega can't build an exploding ring worth of shit. Eddie's still dead.
Yeah, he's still selling it. That's why I'm like, I just clap my hands watching it. I'm like, good job, man.
Like I get that you're trying to be a consummate professional and just sell the storyline, but there comes a point where you have to just be like, this is some shit, man.
Of all people too, eh? Like you would think that it would come from Eddie Kingston first.
Did you guys hear the crowd boo?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the crowd booed. They were not happy. So like the crowd's booing, and there's no explosion. How does Eddie Kingston not realize this? Like that's some serious method acting right there. Like you're so into your character that you don't even realize that the explosion didn't go off.
Like I said, he was just so in the moment and trying to, well, I guess not even in the moment. He was just so dedicated to trying to sell the story that this happened. And, you know, bless him for trying, but like, I don't know, man.
I guess my last question of the night is, where does this leave Jon Moxley? Because I could be wrong, but I thought he was going to take some time off and this was his goodbye match for a while. And the way it ended, especially because he gave the promo after the pay-per-view ended to the crowd live, and that ended up on Twitter. Like he pretty much played it out like Kenny doesn't know how to make the specific type of ring and barbed wire explosions, and it's his fault. But like the way it ended is just like, is that the way he's going to leave?
Yeah, I'm assuming he is probably going to take a break for a while because he's been like on what 2 different promotions, man. Because Bloodsport.
He's been doing Josh Barnett's Bloodsport. He's been doing New Japan. He's been doing AEW.
He's still U.S. champion in New Japan, so we know that he's still probably going to do work for New Japan. So, I mean, if anything, like I still think he's going to take a break. I mean, he still has a baby coming too and everything. So,
and Renee is very pregnant.
Yeah, very pregnant. So,
I feel really bad, mostly for Eddie Kingston, because it was really his moment. Like you could say it's Jon Moxley's moment. You could say it's Kenny Omega's moment. Maybe the match, and the match was great. But the ending was Eddie's moment.
Yeah, it was a
this
seminal
dude has
moment.
The worst luck.
Yeah, it was a seminal moment because for me personally, for the longest time now, like I've been waiting for like maybe like a Eddie Kingston face turn, and it looks like
this could have been it. Yeah,
this could have been it, and the botch unfortunately happened. It kind of spoiled the situation, and it's unfortunate.
If this was any other company, they would turn Eddie Kingston into the scapegoat and he'd turn into a comedy jobber for the next 6 months. But I feel like AEW is going to try to do everything they can to just sort of rally the troops and still try to push Eddie Kingston, even though he looks like a complete idiot right now. I mean, he didn't... I mean, in fairness to Eddie, in storyline, you could say he didn't know that this was going to go this way. He still came out to try to support his friend. So we could still push that along, but...
Yeah, well, you know what they say, you always remember the ending most, and sadly, most people will remember the ending of that match and the ending of that pay-per-view, and I don't know, I think I started the podcast by saying it's my least favorite AEW pay-per-view, and I stand by that. I think from start to finish, it had really good matches, but I think there was a problem with the pacing. There was clearly a few mishaps and botches here and there. There was some odd choices for storytelling and some problematic booking, and having guys continuously run into these matches to interfere just kind of like rubs me in the wrong way. Like I don't want to watch a 20-minute fantastic match just to have it ruined by some guy running in. Like it calls to mind the Stone Cold Steve Austin heel turn when he partnered with Vince McMahon and Vince ran into the ring. Like that whole situation just kind of pissed me off. I hate shit like that. Like just, if you're going to give me a good match, give me a good match. If you're just going to tell a crazy story, tell a crazy story. Does anyone have any final comments, anything else to add to the conversation about this or anything else that happened?
Dynamite will be interesting.
Yeah,
it'll be worth watching. I don't know if Dynamite will be good. That's neither here nor there, but it'll definitely be worth trying to tune into.
Yeah,
at this point in time, like, I think we should just expect AEW from now on, moving forward, to just mess everything up, because that's what they do. Like look at the Shaq thing. Like what happened with Shaq?
I don't think they messed up the Shaq fight. They've messed up.
No, not the fight.
No. Where is Shaq?
Okay,
In kayfabe, where's Shaq?
Where's Shaq?
They still haven't done anything about that.
This is what I mean about again, going back to what I said at the start of the podcast, the rules within the universe, within this wrestling promotion. Where is Shaq? Continuity. Like, Shaq shows up the next day on TNT. I know that's the real world, but within this world, within this wrestling promotion, within this TV show, it's like you're watching some soap opera, and they killed a guy, and then or the guy disappears, and then they completely forget about the character. Like, people are gonna be like, "What the hell?" Right? Right. It's like, where's Shaq? Like, stuff like that. They continuously do these weird and odd choices. And sometimes I give them credit, or give them the benefit of the doubt, I should say, because it's the pandemic and things happen, like travel restrictions, injuries, someone gets sick with COVID, et cetera, et cetera. Where's Shaq? Again, where's Shaq? Where's the explosions?
Where's the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
Yeah. I don't know. Like if I was gonna like put final comments on like the event, it was something that I mentioned on the chat between Mariko and you, and it was I felt like my problem with Revolution was that they oversold a lot of the events in Revolution, and they kind of underdelivered. So
yeah,
that would be like my sort of takeaway from it. Like, it was still entertaining, but it's just that the heat and the hype that was coming into AEW Revolution didn't quite amount to what we saw last night. So
we're getting more Maki Ito. That's all I care about.
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised we completely forgot to mention that, but yeah, more Maki Ito at least.
Oh, and apparently, according to BTE, or Being the Elite, Maki Ito supposedly may or may not be associating with the Dark Order.
She should,
because there was a skit. I'm sorry if I'm spoiling Being the Elite for you, but there was a skit with the Dark Order. You know, they were crying about, "Damn it, Anna's not here. There's no one alive that can replace Anna. There is no woman that can replace Anna." Pan over, there's Maki Ito saying, "Surprise, motherfuckers." And everyone of the Dark Order is just screaming and cheering because, holy shit, it's Maki Ito.
I'm gonna have to.
I gotta watch it. This show's running long, but I do need to just say that I did really enjoy watching the Dark Order rush to the ring to help celebrate Adam Page's victory. I love the Dark Order with Adam Page. That was a highlight. AEW, really do like the pay-per-view. Still my least favorite, but again, you guys have put together some incredible pay-per-views. Maybe next time don't sell it so much, don't hype it up so much for us. Maybe that's the problem, and I do think that is partly to blame with us and partly to blame with them, because there is something called marketing and hype, and in this case, it was built up by the man Tony Khan. So Tony Khan's like a big kid, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
like I feel like sometimes he just can't wait. He can't wait. He can't wait to give the announcement. Like, we got something big for you. And it's like, dude, just let it happen next time. All right, thank you so much, Aaron, once again, and Chris. You can find the podcast over at goombastomp.com. You can listen to the podcast just about everywhere, from iTunes to Spotify to Podbean to Amazon to you name it. Once again, you can find all the links over at goombastomp.com. Check the podcast section and or the wrestling section. We will be back in a few days to talk about AEW Dynamite. And Chris, we're going to have you back on the show again sometime soon.
Heck yeah.
Thank you for listening.